Hey everyone, Jeff Dorman, Chief Investment Officer at Arca, back for another edition of That's Our Two Satoshis Live. I'm joined today by Topher McPherson, Analyst Extraordinaire at Arca. How you doing, pal?
I'm good, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. For those who don't know, we talk about the digital asset markets all the time. We do it really every week through writing. We do it every month through investor calls. We're on Twitter. We're all over the place talking about the digital asset markets because we love them, even when they're boring and slow like right now. But we've been doing this now for over 5 years. You can read along if you want on our blog. That's our two Satoshis is at ar.ca/blog, or you can just come listen to Topher and I jam about the market. So before we get started, as always, this commentary is not intended to be investment advice, investment research, or a recommendation. Please consult your investment professional for your own circumstances. So, Topher, speaking of investment advice, you're saying go buy all gaming tokens because they're all going higher and the revenues are flying and they're all massive hits, right?
No.
No. Okay.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
So what is going on with gaming? I mean, you wrote Axie Infinity and the Web3 gaming thesis, talking about where we've come from November 2021 when Axie became a household name and the Philippines, people were quitting their $9 an hour minimum wage jobs to make $1,000 a day on Axie. Everyone thought that this was the future. You had play to earn, you had move to earn, and a year and a half later, we are still really without any gaming hits. So what's happening in the world of blockchain gaming?
Yeah, definitely. And one clarification, it's $9 per day, not per
Oh,
hour, which even illustrates the point more. But
whew.
no, I mean the reason why we wrote this piece for my two Satoshis, Arca's been very involved in Web3 gaming since day one. Early into Axie, we basically have had a front row seat to the rise and some of, you can call them, the struggles of Axie since then. And I think there were a lot of perceptions of what Web3 gaming was going to be, what play to earn was going to mean for the world. And there was just so much, pent up excitement, people thinking that this is going to change the world, like particularly, like you said, for people in developing countries where wages are really low. It obviously didn't pan out that way, right? But I think the important piece is, what did we learn from that? And then what does this next kind of second genesis of gaming look like? And interestingly enough, a lot of people will say like, oh, Axie was a flash in the pan, not sustainable. This space doesn't really line up well with gaming. But I think that all of the funding that we saw in 2022 to gaming just shows that people are looking longer term. All of these issues, I would argue, are mostly isolated to Axie. So we just wanted to talk about what we learned and now what needs to happen for this next crop of games to at least have a better chance of being successful.
And to be clear, you're pretty bullish on the future of gaming, right? In terms of how blockchain, Web3, and gaming kind of intersect and why this should be a success story, whether it's 3 years from now or 5 or 10 years from now.
Yeah, I am. I mean, it may not be this new crop of games that's coming out just yet. It may take a couple more iterations. But I think that, a lot of people looked back at Axie and said, well, this Web3 gaming thesis is broken. But I would definitely disagree with that. Um, I just think that there are many things that need to change. But when you boil it back down to creating a really good game that people want to play, independent of the Web3 pieces of it, it actually opens up the ability for these kind of Web3 almost enhancements to the gaming experience. Those will naturally, organically come instead of reverse engineering it, like what happened at the start with Axie, where the financialization came first and the quality of the game came second.
Yeah, so let's take a quick just stock of where we are today, right? First of all, Axie Infinity obviously still exists. It's still, if you looked at a 2 year over 2 year, chart of users and activity on Axie, it's still a success story. It's just a massive fall from the crazy peak of 2021. Even the token, right? The token's down 95%, but it's still up, 70x from where it was issued. So Axie still exists, right? We also have the Web3 gaming thesis is still alive, right? There is certainly a real concept of what it means to have true digital asset ownership in games and being rewarded for your sweat equity and sharing in ownership of the game's success. And there really hasn't been a AAA quality game at all, but there certainly is a lot of money going into this space, and there's a lot of people who have had real success outside of blockchain and gaming that are starting to get into this world as developers of blockchain games. So as it stands today, still exists, still a future, just not that hot. But what did we learn, and what do we learn from Axie and from others that have either sort of succeeded or failed, and where do we go from here?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were a lot of things we learned. One of the main things that I keep pushing as we talk to kind of new teams that are building games is, the concept of if everyone's a winner, then no one's a winner, right? So there are a lot of games that with this play to earn model, it was simply you just play and you make compensation based off of it. To me, that if you're trying to grow a sustainable token, you need to reward the stakeholders that basically deserve it the most, right? You cannot give rewards to people who have 100 phones set up in front of them and are just clicking, clicking, clicking. You want to, when you're a game, if you have an earn component, your token's basically the most valuable commodity you have, right? And you cannot just give it away indiscriminately to people. So really doing a better job in new iterations compared to past iterations of actually rewarding the people that are helping you grow and push your project forward the most. So whether that's, people that have spent so much time in the game that they've developed great skill, or let's just say that they've put in the sweat equity piece of it, right? They've been playing for so long, they've been doing all of these specialized arduous tasks, and that's the type of behavior that you would want to reward. So I think that's one big piece of it. I think the other piece of it that we talk about a lot is there's no reason to release a token or an NFT collection years and years ahead of the release of the game. If you're bootstrapping your project, maybe that makes sense. But if you are able to secure venture funding and give yourself some runway, it really is best practice to not put out your token or NFT way before the game, because then it will just sit there and fester. And even if your community is excited, it's tough to ask people to wait 1 to 3 years.
Right, and that's the biggest problem, is that you can certainly generate a buzz and a level of interest through a token or an NFT for some period of time. The problem is the lifespan of what it takes to create a successful game is way longer than what it takes for people to keep that interest going on your token, right? I mean, there are other businesses, there are other business models, other industries where you could probably go from inception to working product in 6 months or 9 months, right? I mean, we've seen that with exchanges. We've seen that with some lend borrow platforms where introducing a token early, you can actually bootstrap not just the money you need, but also the growth and the interest in the customers. But gaming takes 3 to 5 to 7 years to build something real. And I mean, Illuvium is a good example of that, right? I mean, nothing was hotter than the Illuvium token and the Illuvium land sales, but like that product still isn't really even close to live in a meaningful way yet. And the buzz is, long gone on that before that game has really come to fruition. And I think it doesn't mean the game's not going to be awesome. It very well may be, but the token and the excitement and the buzz was just way too far ahead of the actual working product.
Right. Yeah, and better than anyone, a lot of our space is driven on attention and momentum, and so the timing of these things are important. Whether you think they should be or not, they are. So.
And I'd like to say one other thing too. I mean, this is just more intuitive, in my opinion, is not everybody can win. Somebody has to lose, and that's okay,
Yeah.
right? Because I often talk about the word value, meaning like value doesn't necessarily mean financial value. Value can also mean fun and utility value. So, if 80% of the people are going to win, let's say, that still means 20% have to lose. And that 20% who have to lose have to be okay losing because they're having fun or they're enjoying what they're doing, right? It's no different than the kids who put $30 of tokens into, that claw game and they pull out a $5 toy. It's like, to them, the $5 toy was worth it, the $30. And it's okay if they don't get a toy because it was fun to try to grab it with the claw. And I think that was a big problem, not just with Axie, but with some of the models, was that they were trying to create an environment where everybody wins. And that's impossible, right? Somebody has to lose. Either a gamer has to lose or advertisers have to lose, right? Somebody has to be willing to put money into the system and have some other benefit from it, either fun or value or advertising eyes, something that offsets the winning.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes back to kind of what we were writing about in our article. It's people are willing to spend money and be on the losing side if they really enjoy the game. You need to build the high quality game first that could stand by itself without Web3. Um, and if you can accomplish that, then people are okay with being losers because it's time well spent, right? Um, so that definitely is something that I think teams are understanding and working towards.
So why are people excited? Why is there a ton of money being poured into this space? Like what's the home run scenario?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting, especially if you read from Delphi Digital, their recent monthly update on gaming. Users are actually at the lowest they've ever been in this last month for Web3 gaming. It would make you think that this sector, could not be any more cold. And so why is there so much money being piled in? I think the first piece is venture capitalists in our space have seen the success of major gaming studios in the traditional gaming world. Ever since COVID, gaming has become more and more really important in people's lives. People are slowly moving more and more online. And it shows in the growth of Epic Games, the growth of Activision. I mean, just last year, Fortnite did over $5.8 billion in revenue for just in-game cosmetics. So you get
Mhm.
your little avatar as a different outfit. 5.8 billion in revenue. 5.8 billion in revenue is not something that almost any Web3 company is seeing right now, right? And you can never expect to get to that type of scale. But considering the product fit, like product market fit of the Web3 gaming thesis already fits so well, I think the idea is that once the world appreciates these Web3 principles and how much better it could make the gaming experience, that you do actually have a pretty okay shot, you could say, at a piece of this pie, which is relatively pretty big. The other stat that I pointed out in our write up last year, Call of Duty Warzone, when they released the second iteration of their game, they had 25 million players sign up within a week. Again, these types of scales are just not seen in Web3 yet.
So how do we get there? Either in terms of your advice to teams building, or I mean, is there an answer of how we get there besides just patience and increase your time horizon?
I think it definitely requires you to be patient and increase your time horizon. There's just no way currently to speed up some of these developments. But the other piece that is exciting are some of the kind of new, you could call them like philosophical ways that people are viewing game development. So I think that, AI and open source are kind of two different ways right now that video games are trying to or video game studios are trying to increase the amount of content they put out without having to increase their labor costs. So to illustrate this point, right now, if you think about any open world game or a metaverse, every single piece of content in the game, whether it's the map, the items in the game, the characters' personalities, their dialogue statements, it's all finite and it all has to be built by a human. What we're looking forward to in the future, number one, AI. It really makes sense when you're talking to in-game characters. Right now, again, there's a finite set of dialogue that they have. But if you can introduce something like a chat GPT chatbot into it, well, then you can actually have a far more immersive experience. And I think an immersive experience is really what we're looking for. That's kind of like the metaverse thesis itself. Um, and then the second piece of it, there's companies like Epic who created Fortnite that are putting the tools of development back into the players' hands and actually paying them to build things in the game. which is, kind of a Web3 concept, but is very interesting because it lowers the amount of labor that they need to pay to deliver more content.
Would you say, since you are a long-suffering Pirates fan, would you say that the amount of time you need to wait until you have a 2023 breakout season like the Pirates are having, as 20-9 right now, that is a analogy to what we have to do as both gaming users and investors?
Maybe. I think that the Pirates. I don't think this is going to last long, Jeff. Unfortunately, but I hope that Web3 gaming lasts a lot longer. But no, I think what it's going to take longer term, like I said earlier, I don't know if this next iteration of games that are coming out in the next 18 months are really going to catch on or not. It really is just a case study still, financial experimentation. So I think that what it's going to take is time, partially because of the development piece of it, but partially because we don't know what's going to work yet. And I don't think it's a one size fits all type of solution. Some games are going to have tokens and NFTs and are fully going to be controlled by DAOs and governance. And then there are other games that are basically Web2 games, but at the end of the day, you can sell off your NFT item at the end. I think that both of those models can work. It's a bit more difficult when you really financialize the game. But I still think it's going to take a decent level of refining before one of these games really hits it big and can compete with like a top tier traditional video game.
Without putting you on the spot too much, just to send us home here, is there any one game or one studio or anything that you are super excited about right now? From a playing standpoint, not from an investing standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and it is one that we're invested in at Arca, so it's a full disclosure. I think AMGI Studios and what they're building for the My Pet Hooligan game really gets me excited. The reason being is that, they're a team that comes from the traditional gaming space, and they know how to build really phenomenal next level IP and animation. So I think what they're building at least has a good chance of satisfying a lot of the issues that happened with the first iteration of Web3 games. I think that what they're building with My Pet Hooligan is going to be a game that can appeal to all types of gamers, so people who are competitive, socializers, achievers, etc. I think that this is the first chance that we have at a really high quality, using Unreal Engine game that also can succeed, in Web3 while being fun, if that makes sense.
Nice. Will I be able to play any of these games on my 8-bit Nintendo system that I got on my 10th birthday in 1989?
I wouldn't hold your breath, but I'll let you know.
All right. Good to know. Well, Topher, thanks for coming in today. Appreciate your analysis on the gaming industry here in blockchain. That's it for this week, guys. That's our Two Satoshis live. You can check out the blog, as I said, on our website, ar.ca/blog. Topher, where can they reach you on Twitter?
Topher GMI. Topher gonna make it.
I think you will, pal. All right. Good luck to your Pirates. Thanks, pal. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Joe.